evening to Audio Documentaries with Dweezil Zappa. We are back again for part two of Live in the Moment 2.
Yes, well, there are other live in the moments. I guess we'll do those maybe one of these days. But there's also front of house records. There's front of house 1 and 2. There's one I skipped accidentally, so it's like
I think it's front of house. Yes, goes to 3. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I don't even know how that happened. It just happened. It's kind of funny. It's like one of those things where it's like, I always think it's funny when somebody is like, listing certain things. Let's say they're going to give you instructions like, we're going to do A, B, and 3. So like you make a mistake and they're like, you don't stay, with one theme, like should be ABC, but not, 1, 2, C, so it's like.
I mean, I think the Chickenfoot does it, right? They have like album 1 and then they go to Chickenfoot 3 or something. It's like, and it really messes with people in their collections because it's not numerically right. And it just really throws off the obsessive part of you.
It wasn't on purpose. I think I just thought I already had done a second one, or maybe it was because it was like there was a front of house 1 and then there became the live in the moment thing. So that was kind of like maybe similar to front of house. And so I don't know, somewhere along the line, it got confused.
I feel good. I thought actually I was missing out on one of them. I'm like, did I missing out on the joke or something? Did I miss the punchline on that?
I'll have to create one,
Yeah,
or sure maybe I'll just go straight to 4.
Go to 5. Skip over all. Do every other.
Yeah, FOH 7.
Okay. So we were last time we took a left at Peru. So what's this hose for? How we're jumping in.
Okay, that's got to be the Enema Bandit.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that one, the guitar tone on that is interesting because I have this. It's this ice blue Stratocaster, and it's got these pickups by a guy in Canada, Tim McNelly, and it's his silver foil single coil pickups, and the neck pickup and the bridge pickup are wired so that they can be out of phase with each other. And for whatever reason, with these pickups, if I play with them out of phase and then I start playing above the 12th fret, there's an octave that is added, like if you used an Octavia pedal, but it's doing it because of the out of phase thing. It's introducing this octave sound. And you'll hear that because I have a sound where there's clean mixed with dirty, and you can really hear the difference of the things that are happening with that particular sound. So it's texturally a really cool thing, but it's a unique, weird thing that happens just with that guitar. I don't have any other guitar that will make that sound. So it's a really cool instrument for that reason, but I used it for a lot of the Stratty kind of sounds. My dad had very specific Strat sounds, especially on Joe's Garage, and that kind of stuff I just couldn't do with an SG. You can't get it to sound that Stratocaster-esque. So certain things on tour, I may have songs that I will set up so that because we segue songs one into the other for the most part, I have to have moments in the show where I can do a guitar switch. So I generally will play an SG for the majority of the night, but if there are songs that have Stratocaster sounds, I'll put those songs together. So when I do a guitar switch, I can play all the Strat sounds when I need to, or there may be 2 or 3 times where guitar switches happen, but they have to be orchestrated within the set list so that we're not losing time for doing guitar switches for no reason.
It's funny, you and the SG is like the visual for you. Like every guitarist has their thing, like a Les Paul for Slash, you're the SG, everything on the Kramer. So when you guys play different guitars, it always seems weird. Like I'm so used to you seeing in a certain one now.
Well, it was funny because I used to only play Strat-shaped guitars growing up.
Right.
That was the most comfortable. But when I started learning the hard stuff on my dad's music, the guitar that was easiest to play on was an SG, because you can really get up to the top frets very easily. But it took a while for this part, you know, your hand is more forward with the SG. It took a while for that to be comfortable. But when I finally got that together, my playing changed drastically. And that guitar, the SG shape, is now the most comfortable and seems like the most normal guitar for me to play. I do try to play certain things on a Strat that I would play on an SG, and I can't do it as well because there's also a slight bit longer or bigger stretch between the frets. So it's very, very slight. But if you're doing things where you're going across strings, which I do a lot, where, you know, I might diagonally play notes across strings, this stretch becomes wider on a Strat. And so it's harder to get your finger there. Like, you have a very small amount of time sometimes with these fast parts. So if you have to stretch your finger further, you're struggling to keep up. So that's why I can't really play Strats for a lot of the hard stuff. I try to avoid it for things like the Black Page or something like Inca Roads.
One of the things that you used to, seeing it too visual, you know, the fan watching the artist play, you're so used to it too. So
yeah, but when you hear, you know, this, what's it called? What's that hose for or something?
Yeah, what's this hose for?
The solo on there is, it's very blues oriented, and I think at some point it might also I might step on a pedal to get some more heavy duty fuzz towards the end. But playing on that section was always weird for me because I would sort of play straight against it. And it's like, I felt like I was playing in a different time signature against the thing, even though it's not a particularly crazy section to play over. I just found myself playing in a weird way over it. Like, that's what I gravitated towards. And it's very different than the way my dad played over that same section.
Greasy Owl Bacon?
Greasy Owl Bacon. So that's from Keep It Greasy. And that's another one that I played with that Strat. So you hear some more of the weird Octavia kind of sound come in occasionally on that one. But this is a section, a solo section, where that's in 19. So it's a really crazy bit that that I'm playing over. Or is it 21? I don't remember which one it is. It's like, I think it's 19 for that section, if I recall. But the to play over that, a lot of people would just be like, I don't even know what's happening, because the riff feels very energized, but you don't necessarily feel a really strong pulse of the groove. You feel like you're taking a ride for this thing, and it's very choppy. So I try to end up letting that choppiness do what it does, and I play over the top, and occasionally there's these little waves that kind of bounce over this thing. So I'm playing over the bar line and doing all kinds of things, but because it has a lot of sections where there are groups of 5 or 7 implied in the riff, if I lock up with some of those fast 5s and 7s, and then I create contours that have a bunch of those, then now it's like, you know, a crazy typewriter of stuff that's happening, you know, and that's kind of what happens in this one. So it's fun to play over, but I know that a lot of people, if they try to play over it, would really be like, I have no idea. Once you start playing, you're like, you have no idea where one is.
A boat in the ocean in the storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the mercy.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It is. So number 13 is Love Song from the Mountains.
Okay. So this is actually a piece of music from the Bulgarian Women's Choir, and you're giving it the English translation of the name, and I can't even pronounce the Bulgarian name. It's like Metsachenko Griev something.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's it. Leo Geo Levinko.
Yeah, I wish I could pronounce it because I love what that song is. So it's the love song of the mountains is the easier way for us to describe it. But I transcribed those parts from the vocal choral thing, and then I just played it on guitar. It's kind of like a Brian May style orchestration, and I just always loved that piece. And there's another piece called Svatba, which is
actually the next one.
Yeah, and I made them go together, and I kind of added a percussive element to it that made it's like a halftime feel. It makes it sound almost like it could be a Led Zeppelin thing, but it's I just love the harmony and the melody stuff for all the Bulgarian women's choir stuff. And that actually, I went to a couple of concerts of theirs with my dad because he loved their music as well. So we went and saw them and met some of the choir women. It was really a fantastic thing to see in person because they're singing some very difficult rhythms, but they're also singing really close harmonies, and they keep the pitches stable enough that they don't vibrate in a bad way, you know. So it's really tricky and hard to do, and they have this really weird vibrato that they can do, that they can all do in unison. So it's pretty incredible.
Like that, I don't know where. So is that the same thing with Svatba? Is it the same or?
Yeah, it's the same. It's actually from the same record. There was a record that they put out. It was on Non-Such Records back in, I don't know, early 90s, maybe late 80s. But it was The Mysterious Voices from Bulgaria was, I think, the name of the record. But I think it had the French translation of that. Anyway, that record has those two pieces of music on it, and those stood out to me. I love those, so I just decided to learn them at one point.
Cool. So, Badass Pony, track number 15.
Badass Pony, that's from Montana. And this is definitely one where it has that same kind of structure that I've talked about before, where it may start with one sound, but then when you hear me kick into the main fuzz sound, then it's go time. And so there's these little sections that build till it gets to this one thing. But I know that what I was going for on this was there was a certain kind of a wah sound that my dad had in the middle 70s that it just had a different kind of, the character of the wah and the way it shapes the notes was a little more aggressive. And there's a few things in this solo where the wah just shapes the notes in a way that's, I think, pretty evocative of the way my dad used the wah. But I feel like there's some good improvisation stuff that happens, and it really gets going like a steamroller by the end of it.
Yeah, it does. Your inspiration for the playoff titles for some of these songs are just short nicknames you had for it, or things you just sat down and they can be kind of fun, or?
Yeah, well, basically, whenever I would put the things together and start listening to this stuff, and the origin of the songs is really, you know, what dictates what the name of the song will become. And so a lot of times, if people are really familiar with my dad's music, they'll hear the backing track of the vamp that's being played, and they'll know what song it's from. But sometimes people will just hear it as just a solo, and they won't know where it came from. So when you have little hints to give people some idea of where it comes from, it's fun to have that as part.
I think like Road Less Traveled is a lot more obvious off the first half, that that sticks out a little more for someone like me to hear and be like, oh, I know where this is from.
Yeah.
But sometimes they sneak into, I'm like, wait, what? That sounds like what? Yeah.
Well, I mean, even on Shut Up and Play a Guitar, there's a few different versions that came from Inca Roads, but you don't hear it as specifically, oh, this is Inca Roads now, unless you really know the harmony and the structure of that vamp, because he would allow these things to just have a slow simmer as well. You know, it wasn't just, you know, let's just play these same few bars over and over like a regular band would do. There's implied harmony, but there's like different things that happen where, you know, the rhythm builds until it gets to a groove. But sometimes it might just be really sparse and wide open. So songs like Shut Up and Play Your Guitar or Why Can't Johnny Read, those are Inca Roads vamps, but you don't hear them as being the same thing.
I think it's like speaking the same language, but
Yeah.
I don't know, like different things. Let's Do It in a Cornfield, which is a funny title.
Let's Do It in the Cornfield. Oh, okay. So that one was I Come From Nowhere. And it was one of the very first shows that Ryan Brown did with us. Or at least it was from the first tour that he did with us, I think. And the rhythm section was just locking in, you know, right around that time. And we were in Iowa, at a theater in Iowa. So it was because of the reference to cornfields and things. So that it was kind of like, let's do it in the road, but let's do it in the cornfield.
Okay, that's what I thought of when I heard it, but I didn't think that's even related to that.
Yeah. But that is a crazy solo section, and that was a fun one to do. And that song itself, I Come From Nowhere, I just remember having one of the best experiences when my dad recorded that song. As soon as the vocal was done, the studio was downstairs and we had an intercom system. And so he could press a few buttons and make an announcement and it would come over a speaker, or he could go right into a particular room. Like if he wanted to reach me in my room, he could just, you know, hit a button and then it would like beep and then he would say something and I could answer. And it was like a speakerphone, you know, just a voice, the disembodied voice on a speakerphone. But he says, you got to come down and hear this. And so I came down and I'm listening to these vocals that are done on this thing. And it's like the worst vocals in the world, but done in the best possible way. And as it was happening, he was laughing so hard. I've described this before. It's like he melted and spilled out of the chair and onto the floor and he was like beating the ground because he was laughing so hard at how terrible these vocals are, but it's on purpose, you know? And then the lyrics are just so ridiculous to I Come From Nowhere. Some people hear it and they just can't listen to it because they're like, I can't listen to this guy. I don't know why this is so bad like this. Like what? But knowing that it's 100% on purpose, that's the beauty of it. When you listen to it and you think, how could somebody sing this bad this way? And wow. It's just being done for a very specific reason. And my dad just laughing so hard at that. But then he has this like completely ripping guitar solo with the Dynaflanger sound. And that was just kind of that was just a really fun song to have to learn to play, because I brought it to the band. I said, Sheila, I got something for you. And she was, okay, let me check it out. And we sat on the bus and we all laughed like my dad, because we're like, oh my God, we have to try to play this. And Sheila has to try to sing like that. And we used to do these ridiculous things where she had this set of crazy knee pads and she would run and then slide across the stage to make her entrance, to start with, come from nowhere, this crazy, terrible voice, but she would slide across the stage. And it was just, that song was so preposterous, but it was just a joy to play.
Of all people, you looked at actually test her out a lot too live.
Yeah.
Some vocal challenges.
Well, that and also her ability to play any melody on command. If you suggest a melody, she can pretty much play anything on the saxophone. And so I would interrupt her while she would play any kind of regular solo, and I'd say, hey Sheila, sorry to interrupt. Can you play the Pink Panther right now? And then she would just start playing the Pink Panther, and the band would kind of pick up on it. And I would suggest anything like the theme from Indiana Jones or the theme from Superman or anything from Star Wars. She could just start playing these things and incorporate it. She would incorporate it into the music. So it was just amazing that she could transpose keys and do all this stuff and think in all these different directions all at once. And you virtually could never stump her. And that's the craziest part. Like, and if she did get stumped, she was like, oh, I can't, and then we'd have to try to get the audience to help, like hum a melody if she couldn't remember what it was, and it was stuff like that I loved, because it became, when are you ever going to see that at a show?
I mean, you've done, how did you, last time I saw doing Cartman's voice as something.
Oh yeah, we had her doing Cartman a lot of times. It started in, instead of being Bob Dylan in Flakes, yes, we would have Cartman be, so I remember the very first time we did it, I made some joke about, instead of, you want to buy some Mandy's, Bob? I said something like, do you want to buy a box of dildos, Cartman? And she's like, yeah, that'd be sweet, but it's like, she could do that voice really well. And so there constantly was talk of dildos from Carmen on many tours, but at some point it became Cartman interacting with Bill Cosby, who was played by Adam Minkoff inside of Cosmic Debris. At one point on tour, there would be like about a 15-minute improvisation to see, it would just go into all kinds of crazy places where they would have arguments, music stuff would happen, all kinds of things, but it's just total random. And we never knew what it was going to be or if it would even turn out, but we just did it because it was like, all right, we're here, let's see what happens. And it's fun because that's the folklore that happens, from day to day on tour.
Those are some of the favorite moments that stick out because they're just so funny. You just weren't expecting them,
Yeah, there's some good ones.
It can't be contained.
It can't be contained. What is that one? I can't remember what that name comes from. That might be, what comes right after that one?
Turn of the Son of Orange County.
Okay, so it can't be contained. I feel like that might be, there was very briefly once my dad played an additional solo section that got added into the most obscure song to have a solo, which was Let's Make the Water Turn Black. And I think that's the one that has that da-da-da, da-da-da. And I ended up putting that solo section into Ride My Face to Chicago. And so sometimes we would just use that vamp. And I think that's a solo from Ride My Face to Chicago, if I'm remembering correctly, because I have not listened to this record for a long time. But it's probably that. And that was a fun thing to play over because I started to take it in all these weird directions harmonically that it became like a real launching pad for me to try out new ideas. But I always ended up with some kind of weird version of melodic minor on there where it shouldn't be, but it still, I liked seeing what I could get away with.
Well, it's kind of the theme. Take a lot of left turns in all your music.
Yeah.
So actually, the return of the Son of Orange County, which is pretty.
Yeah. So that one, I'm pretty sure was also from the Roxy tour that we did because we played that song. So there's probably some duck calls and stuff that happen as transitional elements because that's also from that tour. But yeah, I can't remember a lot about that particular solo. It's kind of does the same structure as the original solo. There's certain themes that I stick to, especially when we end the solo. It goes into the melody part, which I don't think I used the melody part as a transition in the traditional way on this record. But I think that's one of the solos that I would play on where I did tend to play some of the phrases that my dad played from that solo, and I used them as guideposts. Maybe not as much in this particular version, but that's something that I would do typically on that song.
They say if you playing and you make a mistake, you just do it twice, so it looks like you're playing on purpose, right?
Well, that definitely happens anytime. My dad called that a strong wrong. Like if you do it and it's like it sticks out, that's a really strong wrong. But if you do it again, then it's intentional. So
That's awesome. Prelude in E Retrograde.
So that is basically like the first song that was in E at the beginning of the record. It's the same kind of beginning of a Yo Mama solo, but it's backwards. So that's the retrograde part.
The last track is the classic Watermelon.
Yeah, so Watermelon at Easter Hay was a tune that I couldn't get myself to be able to learn or play it because it was too difficult emotionally. It's also very hard on the guitar, but emotionally I couldn't get to it for years. It wasn't until, I don't know, the first time, the very first time I played it, we actually have a video of it on the site. It's from the Beacon Theater. And you can see that I'm like crying while playing this thing. And it was really, it's always been my favorite guitar solo of my dad's. I mean, it's just an unbelievable performance, but beautiful melody and really interesting sound. It's got a really clean part that's clean and compressed. And then it's got this distorted part that has a little bit of phaser on it, a little bit of dynaflanger. And it's a really textural guitar sound. And I wanted to try to nail the actual sound of it in a live situation so it sounded like the record. And other things that we did too on the record, my dad used a thing that was creating these delays on certain tom hits, and it's kind of a weird little thing. But in the live show, Eran Ben-Zur would very carefully run a little send to a delay for certain tom hits and recreate some of that texture. So when you hear this version, it's very close as you can get to recreating the sound of the Joe's Garage album, but right there live on stage. And this was I think a pretty good version throughout in terms of me playing very close to what my dad actually played, but then also a few of my own ideas in there. I didn't want to stray too far because I love what the solo is. So you asked me before, are there any solos that I try to learn completely note for note? And that's one of them, but it's so hard to get the phrasing exactly right and to remember all of the things. So I don't think there was ever a time where I played note for note perfectly all the way through. It's just too much to take in or remember. But I'm pretty sure that version was from Minneapolis at the same club where they filmed Purple Rain. So that was a fun, I think it also was the end of a tour. That was the last show of one of the tours. And I remember there were a couple people in the audience that we had seen at other shows and people that were from the website in the community that I ended up saying hi to after the show. There was a kid named Carl Franzoni that I remember coming. No, Fritz. So anyway, I think that's what he goes by on the website. Anyway, that's just what I am thinking of at this moment. But uh, performing that song has always been a challenge. I mean, there were maybe 2 or 3 times I played it where I didn't end up in tears, but pretty much every time it's just such a trigger, an emotional trigger for me. But I love playing it. And it was hard to keep the guitar in tune because to do some of the vibrato stuff, you can't just do it with finger vibrato. You have to use the tremolo arm to get it to have the right sound. But I don't use guitars with locking tremolos on them. I like how those work and everything, but somehow it just is too 80s for me, and I just can't bring myself to put a locking tremolo on a guitar right now for that reason.
That's actually the end of this. I know we have a couple extra minutes compared to the length of the other one. Did you want to maybe go over Dinosaur and maybe like I'm Afraid of Americans?
Sure, we can talk about those. Yeah.
Just jump on those two tonight.
Sure. Well, Dinosaur is a tune that was originally a song that I wrote that was going to be for Shampoo Horn. And we recorded a version of it, but I just didn't end up finishing it. And I think that version, Ainsley Dunbar played drums on it. And then let's see, it just kind of sat around. I liked the riff. I liked the elements of the riff. And it was one of the first songs that I wrote for the record back at that time. But it just ended up not being used for a while. And it had parts in it that I liked that I brought into other things at different times. But then I did a music camp called Dweezil, and I had a bunch of different guitar players help come and teach the students. So we had Tom Quayle, Oz Noy, Daryl Gable, Matt Picone ended up helping with teaching stuff with the fractal audio stuff. I'm spacing. I know that there's one more. It was David Walleman was one of the other guys. Did I miss anybody on it? Oh, Chris Buono. I think that's all the different teachers I had. But I said to them, hey, let's all do a song. Each of us have a song that we all then play solos on. So after that camp, everybody made a song and we all played on everybody's song, but my song that everybody played on ended up being this version of Dinosaur. And Dinosaur had one other extra special guest, which turned out to be my dad. I did a xenochrony thing. So at the very end, the last solo you hear is my dad playing over this section of the outro of this section of Dinosaur. And the solo came from City of Tiny Lights, because the solo section on Dinosaur was in G and City of Tiny Lights is in G. I had parts of that. There was also something else that, another bit from something else, which this is the best name. There was a solo that my dad had set aside for something, but he named it Arrogant Mop. So there's like a little bit of Arrogant Mop mixed in as this xenochrony thing that is part of Dinosaur. But the whole piece is like, I don't know, 10 or 11 minutes long, and it has a solo from all these different guys, and I play a solo on it too. But it really gives you all these different textures and different styles of playing. And when I made it work for these guys to play on it, I did change certain sections of the song so that I could kind of challenge some of my friends that were playing on it and make them play a certain way and see what they would do. So the song evolved in a much broader way because of the participation of those other players.
Oh, yeah. The other question I was going to ask you, what the name would you come up with a name from?
Dinosaur, I don't know. It just kind of stuck in the beginning. I was like, I'll just call this Dinosaur. But then when I made the song, the released version of it has a dinosaur screaming at the very beginning and these kind of other weird little sound effects. I wanted to make it like an audio movie. It's similar in a way. I have a record that's called What the Hell Was I Thinking? And What the Hell Was I Thinking has all these different pieces of music and different players playing on it. But Dinosaur is kind of a small version of what that record ultimately sounds like, because it has these different players that are just popping out of the speakers at different times, and the music changes, and it's all segued together, and there's these sound effects and other things, but it's all guitar, bass, and drums. So I'm still working on that What the Hell Was I Thinking record. I haven't had time to totally get it all together, but and there's more players I want to put on it still, but that song Dinosaur would give you an idea of what that record ultimately kind of would sound like.
So with that album you're talking about, do you have an idea of how you're going to do a cutoff? Because there's got to be a point where you just got to say, I have enough people, and I have to do another song with more people. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, there is that.
This is going forever. This can be a Dinosaur.
Yeah, but the thing about that particular piece of music is I got so involved in the touring of playing my dad's music, I really wasn't able to do anything with my own music in the studio for any length of time. So that just took a back seat for a good 15 years or more. I mean, it's more than 15 years, I think, at this point. But yeah, I mean, I started that back in when I was recording Shampoo Horn. So that was 1991, I think, or 1990. So
a hot minute.
Yeah, but that piece of music, What the Hell Was I Thinking, originally did have some pieces of my dad's music sort of interwoven throughout the piece, which I don't need to do anymore. So there's other things I have to write to connect pieces to make it be what it's supposed to be. So I haven't even had a chance to do that, which would then give some space for some other players. And there's lots of great players out there today that are players that may not be that well known or don't even release records or tour, but they're known on the internet. So there's a lot of really good players. There's a guy named Matteo Mancuso, who's an incredible player. I'd like to get him to play on there. He plays with his fingers like a jazz bassist or flamenco player, but he plays incredible stuff. There's just a bunch of really great players that are out there that I would like to add into this, so that kind of the overall idea of What the Hell Was I Thinking originally was to just have a continuous piece of music that just has all these different styles and different guitar players that just show up. And it would be the equivalent of if you were watching a movie and you saw all these different cameos from all these well-known people. It's like, oh, there's Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jack Nicholson, Joe Pesci. Like, why are they all in one scene? You know, that's what this guitar record is kind of like. And you have guitar players of different genres, and some of them are very well known, but I'd like to have some others that people might be discovering for the first time. And it's that kind of thing that I just want to turn it into. So it's an audio movie of all guitar styles.
It's going to be hard to be like, say when. Nope, that's enough for me. Let's close this one up. And
well, now that I kind of have the ability to have a studio that I can focus in, get the stuff up and running, I will be able to do that. It's only if I start getting into a touring lifestyle again that I would be taken away from all of that stuff. So I feel like in the next year or so, I'll be able to really pull it together.
But Matt, let's just do I'm Afraid of Americans. It's kind of a fun cover you did.
Yeah, I wanted to go into Sunset Sound and record a song. And the David Bowie song, I'm Afraid of Americans, just somehow became the selection. But there was a guy that Ryan Brown had worked with. His name is David Brighton. And he is amazing at singing in the style of David Bowie. And he's a great musician on his own, writes his own music and stuff, but he has a particular talent to be able to emulate David Bowie and also George Harrison But
That's very nice here.
yeah, in this particular case, when we were doing this song, I wanted to do a version that was very similar to the Trent Reznor, David Bowie version, but I wanted to make a few changes. Some of the synthesizer things I wanted to use actual vocals for. So I had Sean Coey sing some of the parts that were sound effect or synthesizer things. And then I had some other elements that were synth things being done with fuzz bass and guitar. So it's more of a rock combo thing. But then at the outro, I put in a riff that I wrote that just made this circular feel of the thing. It was a riff in 9, and you can hear it just kind of jump out and do some weird things as the song is fading. But mostly the song was an experiment just to use the studio, use certain pieces of audio equipment that I wanted to get familiar with, and try to get a certain result out of this song. But I was really surprised at how amazingly accurate David Brighton's vocals could be. So we tracked the song live. He sang the song live. We used his live vocal. Then he doubled it. Then he tripled it. And every time his vocal was together, I've never seen such a tight double on every single thing. It was in the same way that Freddie Mercury could tightly double himself to the point where it would phase. This is what David Brighton was able to do. It was bizarre how perfectly he replicated each take. And I was really impressed that anybody could even do that. So the vocal stuff on there went very quickly. We did the whole track in a day, really, really fast actually. And then it took a little bit of time to mix it, which was another day. But my original intention was to just do the whole thing in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
But we ended up having a little bit of extra time for final mix on it. But it really was an experiment just to go in there and just learn about some recording techniques and try out some stuff. I did learn one thing that was really interesting when we set up the drums and the bass guitar. So if this is where the kick drum is, the bass guitar was back a little bit originally, and it was near the drum set, but further back from the drum set. And we listened, and I had read something somewhere from Glyn Johns when he was talking about recording The Who, and he said he always put the bass guitar right at the same distance on the same line as the kick drum. And it would basically align the low end information so it was traveling at the same rate. And so I just wanted to test that theory to see, like, okay, if the bass guitar is back from the kick drum, let's record that a little bit, and then let's bring it to the same line and see if we get a tighter, more cohesive bass. And sure enough, it was like 150% better.
Really? That noticeable?
Yeah, so that was just kind of one of the things that I tested and wanted to just see how that kind of stuff worked out in the studio. And it was really cool as a science experiment to be able to do stuff like that.
Like, well, how come the song is a song you used to do a lot, or?
Nope, we never did it.
I just too easy.
Yeah, I just thought it was a fun idea to do something like that. And like I said, Ryan knew David Brighton, so I thought, okay, well, let's do that and just make a version that sounds like David Bowie actually was on this song. It was just really all about trying different textures in the studio and trying out recording techniques and things so that I could just test out some applications and theories.
Oh, it sounds really good. It's surprising it was just such a off the cuff thing that you did.
Yeah, well, you know, if I ever did an album of covers, it would be a very eclectic thing, and I could just throw that on there as one of them. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be fun to do that sometime. Is to do just an oddball thing of covers, you know.
Well, you've done some fun ones in the past, so I'd be, you know, no shortage of interest in it. It's, you know,
Yeah, well, you know, it's.
the
It,
Britney is my favorite you've done.
oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was something for a soundtrack for that wrestling movie.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. That
with,
Arquette was in, right? Was David Arquette was in that one?
yeah, I can't
Uh,
remember the name of the
yeah, I
film.
can't either. I just remember him.
Yeah, but yeah, it's fun to sometimes do a spin on some things, but sometimes it's also fun to see if you can replicate something very specifically. Like I did a test. I haven't released it, but I did a thing where I did the song Polythene Pam, the Beatles song, and I did all the vocals and I did the guitar and the bass. And I did all this stuff, but I was trying to see if I could make it sound as close to the actual record as I possibly could. And it's actually kind of surprising how close it ended up sounding exactly like the record. And I purposely at one point did a thing where it becomes like an EDM section. It's like, okay, here's the Beatles, but then it just turns into that song, but EDM.
It's
So
the Beats, the Beatles.
yeah, so it's kind of a crazy thing. But I did that like 20 years ago. And so I've never put it out, but it would be
Great.
interesting.
Put it
Yeah,
out. Even the website, even, you know, people love it. Well, this has been fun as usual.
yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, we'll have to see what we can figure out. I like it when it's a surprise and I don't know what the hell we're talking about.
What the hell you're thinking? All right, well, we'll end it on that note.
Yeah.
We'll be back again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Sean.
Okay.